Oh, hello again. How are you doing? A very special greeting to our new viewers across Sweden, Norway and Denmark, who can now enjoy all Men and Motors programmes on their own dedicated satellite transponder. Well, wherever you live, there's another packed programme tonight. We'll all gawp at some stunning American concepts, enjoy the latest Audi executive saloon, see how a purge machine can help your car's efficiency, and Sterling Moss will be talking about Formula One safety. By the way, next week we have the first of two special programmes direct from the huge automotive show in Frankfurt. There'll be loads of new cars to look at: the all-new Volkswagen Golf, Vauxhall's new Mini MPV, the Zafira, and Mercedes' new off-roader made in Alabama, the M-Class. But first, this week, yet another electric car experiment, but one which seems to have been a resounding success because of the chosen location. Peter Baker flew to the Channel Islands to drive a Toyota RAV4 with a difference.
Jersey in the Channel Islands. It may be only 9 miles by 5 miles across, but the summer sees Jersey packed with tourists enjoying the hot sun and the annual Battle of Flowers parades. But for the people living here, as well as looking after the tourists, this is mainly an agricultural island, and that means Jersey potatoes, tomatoes and milk products and whatever. Now, this is not to say that the average Jersey man or woman gets off on the latest agricultural equipment. They want to have fun as well. Islanders in Jersey are pretty well off, and you see an awful lot of sports utility vehicles and fun 4x4s to take them to the beach or whatever they want to do in their leisure time. Things like the X90 from Suzuki or the Honda CR-V or the RAV4 from Toyota. I've hired one of these for the day from a hotel, but this ain't a normal RAV4. This is all electric. This electric RAV4 is one of a mini fleet provided by Toyota to hotels around Jersey to test out the concept of electric vehicles over a 5-year period. It's a rather unusual beast to get to terms with at first.
When you turn it on, all the lights come on. You see your full charge or empty charge. Right. It's a little orange light that pops off. You've got park, reverse, neutral drive. You've got B, which is braking, and also a little button here comes up here. Yeah. EBX extra brake. When you're going downhill, you put it into B, it slows you down. It's like a lower gear. Oh, yeah. And it recharges the battery as well.
I think primarily to start with, it's got a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, so it's a very safe driving environment. So therefore, you're not going to have people perhaps who drive petrol cars who then go on to electrics and speed. And it is an extremely safe vehicle. I think the beauty of it is a very quiet car, but the problem with that is we had actually 2 guests who waited in the car park for 20 minutes for the engine to start up. They couldn't hear the engine, and therefore we had to help them out and advise them that actually there was no noise. It's a supercar, it's very quiet. And that's quite disconcerting initially, but you get used to it. Put the stereo on, I think, is the answer to that. I think it's a very practical car. This particular model is not too large, so it parks well. There's no difficulty in recharging it. There are places on Jersey, 4 points on Jersey we can recharge. 120-mile duration, that's excellent for Jersey. I mean, most of our customers do more than about 4 or 5 miles a day, myself included. So that would work very well for me. So it's got a good future, I believe, on Jersey.
Certainly this Channel Island seems to be an ideal location to run electric vehicles. After an overnight charge, it'll run for more than the average day of touring. There are no motorways to run out of juice on, and the maximum speed on the island is 40 miles an hour. So, well-chosen Toyota.
It wasn't so much us choosing Jersey, it was really more like Jersey choosing us as Toyota. They are very keen on electric vehicles in Jersey. They've had a lot of history of trialling vehicles there and just trying out different manufacturers' products. Really, the RAV4 EV was chosen because it's the latest thing, and also because we like Jersey because it's only 45 square miles across. It's a speed limit of 40 miles an hour, so it's ideal for an electric vehicle.
The electric RAV4 is packed with nickel hydride batteries, which give a 200-kilometre range and a top speed of 125 kilometres an hour. But an electric motor and power aren't the only changes.
Obviously, the vehicle has a one-speed transaxle, so there aren't gears as such. You literally put your foot down and the vehicle accelerates away. And the good thing about an electric motor is it has a lot of torque a constant amount of torque at low revs, so it actually picks up extremely well. You put your foot down and you literally whiz away very quickly and very quietly, obviously. No noise, apart from a little bit of tyre rumble.
The experiment is a joint venture between Toyota and Jersey Electric.
Well, I think that we see an opportunity here in Jersey which has all the elements that are most challenging for electric vehicle technology. We see the opportunity here to show that it is an economic, it is a viable form of transport. And if we are taking the lead certainly in Europe, if not the world, we feel that's our role. Now we're supported by several other major players in this initiative, so we're confident that we can bring to the party something really important.
Now, getting behind the wheel of an electric car is very strange. You're taking off and there is no engine noise. Now, the last electric car we drove was in Wolfsburg in Germany. It was the electric version of the Golf. Now there, the quietness of the engine doesn't really freak you out because the Golf isn't a noisy car anyway. And now the Toyota RAV4 are a kind of vehicle like this. You expect to have a kind of lively sound from the engine, and it just isn't there. You've got the torque and the acceleration isn't bad, but the feedback that you get from the vehicle when driving it, the experience is totally different than one that you would have with a normal petrol or diesel car. It's not just the noise, it's the vibration, it's the feel from the steering wheel. It's almost like freewheeling. Here we are at the junction. Anyone coming? Nope. Push the foot down, the foot's on the floor, and we just do not hear anything. It's really bizarre. You obviously get the tyre noise and a bit of the wind noise, but that's it. And so it's a completely different kind of feedback response to learn. It's like learning to drive all over again. Once you get orientated, these electric RAV4s drive as well as the ones we know and love. The ride quality, great. Handling, amazing. You can almost thrash it round the corners of the grip of a saloon, which is remarkable for a car with such a high centre of gravity. But why did Toyota choose the RAV4 for their electric car experiment?
We took the vehicle, we used that as the base vehicle for our electric car, because it's such an unusual car in itself. The RAV EV was the RAV itself was an extremely unusual vehicle when it came out. Sort of like, it looks like an off-roader, drives like a car. So it was a natural progression really to put the electric drivetrain in that vehicle.
Well, if you're eager to be the first on your block with an electric RAV4, I'm sure you won't be that eager to find out that if this were for sale in the UK, it would be around £50,000. So with that sort of price tag, what really is the practicable future of electric vehicles?
A lot of people feel that it's so nice to come to Jersey, come to Laurel's have something different. There is a novelty factor, but also if you're taking kids out, it's the kids eventually who will be buying electric cars for the future. This
was our first stage, so these are nickel metal hydride batteries, which are very advanced in themselves in the RAV4 EV. But the next stage is probably the fuel cell vehicle, which is another stage of hybrid vehicle, basically electric vehicle rather. And then we have a full hybrid vehicle as well, which we unveiled only a matter of weeks ago in Japan.
So while we wait for a practical electric future, are we really living in a present which is only an extension of the old electric milk float? Take a look at this. That was Scandinavia, where they have electric car rallies. I don't think even Ernie the milkman will be seen driving one of those.
Peter Baker there in Jersey with the electric RAV4. I'm sure there's a gag there somewhere about Jersey milk and electric milk floats, but I can't think of one quick enough. Seriously, I worry about pedestrians with the advent of these electric vehicles. They're so quiet, you can't hear them coming. No doubt the boffins are working on built-in combustion engine noise as we speak. Well, it's time to return to Stirling Moss at his Mayfair apartment. This week, Mike Rutherford asks about Formula One safety.
Well, safety is the flavour of the month, or probably the flavour of the decade. It used to be said that you couldn't sell safety. I think Volvo have put that one to rest, because you can very much sell safety these days. What about safety in Formula One, though? Who better to comment on that subject than our old friend Stirling Moss? Stirling, how safe is Formula One? Is it too safe?
I think the modern car is fantastic. There's no two ways about it. I think it is too safe. I think the problem with safety is you get a contempt of danger. And this goes for you, me, or anybody. Yep. And I think in racing you don't want to have a contempt of danger. I mean, we have a situation where we've had two world champions, two of the finest drivers ever in the world, actually drive the other one off the road at 170, 180 miles an hour. Now that is appalling.
You're thinking of the Senna incident
in
Japan?
Prost, yes. I mean, it's terrible. They would do it, and they wouldn't do it if they were frightened of their own necks. And that, I mean, is, to me, is an indictment. I mean, in the old days, and I don't want to go back to the old days, because obviously we need to trace, but one was scared. I mean, I was scared. I can tell you that it was 3 or 4 years before I spun. Not because I was that great, but because I was frightened if I spun, I'd hit the side and turn over, and I might hurt myself seriously. And I think that one needs to reserve a certain amount of fear, because it is an important quality. I think the control of your fear and the ability to be able to drive faster than another man without frightening yourself. In other words, you manage to get your limit up here higher than he does, is what makes one man better than another. And if danger comes into it, where if you're a naughty boy, you're not just going to spin off, you're going to damn well be hurt, that sure makes you think about it. I'll tell you, it's the same as gambling. If you gamble for just chips, it's nothing. Or matchsticks, but you put down even a penny, even if you can afford it, it still then means something. I want to beat you more just to get your 6p.
Yeah.
And
So
it's important.
Are you saying then that if we see somebody doing a very quick lap, say in qualifying, where 1 lap
That is the dangerous time,
is the be all and end all, really? And let's not forget, of course, that's where tragically Roland Ratzenberger lost his life, not in a race, but qualifying.
Very dangerous.
Yeah. Maybe there are some that are taking the view that, hang on a minute, I need that extra second, I'm really going to push my luck. But I know if I fly off and I hit that tyre wall, I'm in a carbon fibre car, Kevlar car, probably the safest car in the world, and there's very little chance really of hurting
I'm going to
myself.
get a rocket from the manager because, my God, they've got to work all night, the poor mechanics and so on, but I buggered it up. But I think really that is about the point, and I think that is a shame, and I think it's an indictment of our sport. It is also bad that when a corner's really difficult, as some of them were. I mean, the Grande Curvy at Monza, for instance, really difficult. You go in there, boy, and you're really thinking about it. They go and put a chicane in, so they emasculate the circuit like that, and I think this is a great shame. I think motor racing has to have an element of danger to stop people like you, if you like, from saying, well, God, I'd like to get and have a go in the car. You wouldn't want to get in the car if you thought, Christ, this is really dangerous. And I mean, racing drivers have to be a bit different to the other people to get in these cars and drive them.
And a lot of people will take the view that Michael Schumacher, on his 20 million bucks a year or whatever he's on, he's being paid
Much
to
more than that, actually.
much more. Actually, thinking about it, I think that's his expenses, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the allowance for the wife.
Yes.
But I think a lot of people.
I must tell you, excuse me interrupting you, but one thing I'd like to tell people about Michael Schumacher, which I think is very important, it may even impress you. A little dog came into his pits, I think in Brazil, and one of the mechanics kicked it out of the way. You know that? I don't know if you know this. And his wife went up to this guy and clocked him. She really banged him, and they got this dog.
That's right.
And it was a poor stray, nothing, Heinz variety, 57.
Yep.
And she took the thing under her wing, obviously with his agreement.
That's right.
And they brought the thing back, and it's now his dog.
Yep. And
they looked after it, and I I think it's fantastic. Because I can.
It was in Brazil or somewhere.
It was in Brazil, and to have love for an animal like that, I think is wonderful. And
it shows the other side of the man.
It does.
Also shows how easy it is to bring rabies into the country or into mainland
He didn't come here with it, though.
No.
He didn't bring the car. I mean, he didn't bring his dog here, did he? But
but I mean,
carry on.
in my limited dealings with him, I've got to say, people say he's arrogant, but I find the bloke is all right. He's not over friendly. He hasn't got a clue who I am. I mean, he talks to me. He's not quite sure who he's talking to. He doesn't look me in the eye.
Well, that's pretty nice.
But yeah, he gives me the time of day. And yes, he's arrogant. And yes, I've seen him treat people in a not terribly pleasant manner. But for God's sake, when you can't even walk down the street or go to a restaurant or have 5 minutes peace on your own, is it any wonder that it makes you arrogant? And anyway, if he is arrogant, I think if there is anyone in Formula One who can afford to be arrogant
or deserves to be
arrogant, there is only one. And that's him. I mean, he is the best.
He's not particularly. He doesn't see me and come up, hi, Stel, this, that, and the other. And I wish he would. But I can understand what he's about. Frankly, I think the man is terrific as a driver. He is highly paid. Okay, if people will pay him, that's not his fault. I would not expect him or you or me to say, listen, you're giving me twice what I'm worth. Of course you're not. No.
Agnelli being the boss of Fiat,
exactly.
who are the team ultimately,
and he's got a lot of bread.
Employ him.
But we were talking about the safety of this thing. I haven't had a chance to speak to Michael about what he feels about safety, but I wouldn't mind betting you that he would agree, because I think if cars were far more difficult, he is still the man who would master it. And I don't think I've seen him do any foolhardy things. Maybe, but I can't think of one. Maybe people have seen this and will write it and say, what about this, that and the other. But overall, he does not come out to me as being a foolhardy person.
Sterling Moss and Mike Rutherford there. After the break, we'll escape to the States to look over some gleaming concepts, and Ginny Buckley will get some advanced driving tuition. Hello again and welcome back. A concept car is a very useful means to test out materials and parts configurations, as well as obviously wacky designs. Chrysler in the States have got a stable of concepts in their car park at the moment, and when we found out their car park was the Arizona desert, we jumped on the next plane to give them a once-over.
We were there at the Detroit Motor Show when Chrysler wheeled these beautiful dream concept cars in front of our bulging eyes. We were allowed to look and touch, but we weren't allowed to drive. Not till now. Until now, concept cars have been developed as designers' models or engineering test cars that may not even have an engine in. But for the first time, Chrysler is going for a more hands-on approach. In an attempt to prove that concept cars can be practical, they've been brave enough to invite motoring journalists from around the world to get behind the steering wheel and give the cars a spin.
Well, I think the reason for having the European press in is to give them a sense of what Chrysler Corporation is all about today in terms of the excitement that's going on in product development. And that's going to have a halo effect on all of our other products, of course, and many of which are being shipped into Europe, into the European market.
Echoing the glamour of the 30s and 40s, the Chrysler Phaeton is a huge, luxurious four-door convertible with a length of about 5.5 meters. It's powered by a 5.4-litre V12 engine. In contrast, the Copperhead two-seater sports car is much sleeker, combining classic design with modern technology. And how about this for a concept? The Pronto, a 5-door hatchback with a unique plastic bodywork. And the Jeep Icon, with its compact, muscular look. And this is the latest in the lineup to reach the production line. Of course, the Prowler, we saw it at the NEC in Birmingham last year. It's a modern-day version of the American hot rods of the rock and roll era. Well, last year the Prowler was touring the world. Many people got their checkbooks out, but many people will also be disappointed. Only 5,000 are in production for next year's market. Most of us will never be able to afford cars like this, but at least we can dream.
Some of us spend our whole lives looking high and low for the one to share the essence of your heart and soul. And sometimes what they've been saying is actually true. When the student pulls up a chair, the teacher's standing right in
Some exquisite looking cars there, and what a responsibility having the opportunity to get behind the wheel of a car of which only one working model exists in the world. Right, what are your driving skills like? Honestly? Well, it's time now to join Ginny Buckley for another advanced driving lesson.
Tony, surely when you pass your test, the Department of Transport test, that qualifies you to drive on the road, and it means that you're a safe driver, you're a good driver. What's the need for an advanced test?
Well, that's the first, if you like, mistake. It qualifies you to drive on the road. It does not mean you're a safe driver. It does not mean you're a good driver. That's the first thing. All it means is you've attained that minimum level of driving ability to pass that 30-minute or so test. What happens then? You're going to be driving for another 40, 50, 60, 70 years. Vehicles change, road conditions change. You need to be able to keep your driving up to scratch, continually improve it, learn new techniques. Just as you do in a career, you learn more things about your career and how to perform your job. Driving is a key part of life. You need to improve your abilities in that key part of your life. Okay, Ginny, you've just got yourself into an unfamiliar car. Get your seatbelt on, make sure that's comfortable, make sure the seat's adjusted, including the head restraint. That head restraint looks okay for you.
Yeah,
any other seat adjustments, make sure the internal and external mirrors are okay. You feel for the clutch, the brake and the throttle, you know where they are and where the various gear positions are, particularly including reverse, and how to actually select reverse on this car. So, having familiarised yourself with that, then the basic controls, where the indicators are, the horns. We've already had a walk around the outside. We're comfortable that the tyres are okay and the tyre pressures look reasonable. We don't have a tyre pressure gauge to actually check them, but at least they look basically reasonable, the tyre pressures. Make sure you're comfortable with the positions of the steering wheel, because this car does have an adjustable steering column.
Yep.
External mirrors, okay. Right, okay. When you're just feel the handbrake as well, so you know. Cover the foot brake while you're checking the handbrake to make sure the car doesn't roll.
This is like my driving test all over again, you know.
It is very similar. The
so you're going to direct me. You're going to tell me where you want me to go.
Directions. Just remember that you are in charge of the car and the driving. If I ask you to do something or make a manoeuvre, the decision's ultimately yours as to whether or not it's safe.
Now please do be kind with me, because I've not driven this car before.
Don't worry, Ginny.
And remember that I have to get in my own car and drive home afterwards, so I don't want to be too much of a wreck.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem.
Right.
And when giving directions, when driving along, we'll always be following the road ahead, unless signs or road markings dictate otherwise.
Okay.
And I'll try and give you the directions in plenty of time. But if you do miss a direction sign or miss a instruction I've asked you to do, don't worry, we'll recover the situation. Not a problem.
Right, let's go then. So this is how you start off everybody when they come along to the Institute. You'd get them in the car, you'll take them off for a drive, sit in with them and then give them a critique.
That's right. Sometimes we will actually highlight things as we're driving around, depending on the level of what's going on at the time in terms of the hazard level. Sometimes we'll ask them questions as we're driving along, providing it's safe for them to think about the answer. It's a useful habit to get into before you slow down, as you had to there because of the light changing through to red, just to check in the mirror to make sure that it's actually safe to reduce your speed.
Right.
If you've got a 38-ton Arctic sitting 2 foot from your bumper, applying your brakes is probably not a good idea.
So here we are, Tony, hitting the centre of Manchester, and this is all quite an important part of the test, city centre driving. So what would the lesson consist of?
Well, basically, it's important when you're in city centre, what we try and get over the message, and it's important at all driving, is about observation, seeing what is ahead, what is around, what other drivers and other road users or potential road users are doing. Assessing which lane you're in, because you get so many different lanes going left, right, straight ahead. You get one-way streets, two-way streets. You get 2 lanes in one direction, 1 lane in the other. Ginny.
What?
Please, for the sake of the ratchet and the mechanism of the handbrake, it'd be useful if you press the button when you apply the handbrake. More to the point, if that ratchet wears out, your handbrake could release itself without you doing anything.
And what's the point? It gets on your nerves.
Well, it does also get on my nerves. It's actually surprisingly audible from outside the car.
Okay. You mentioned there very briefly about the safety and about looking after the car.
Right.
How much does the test cover that? What are the points
Well,
to each other?
It's not the test per se that covers the car. It's the technique and style of driving that helps reduce wear on the car. So many drivers signal what they are doing rather than what they wish to do.
Signal at the last minute as they're doing it.
Exactly.
It drives me mad if I'm in the outside lane on the motorway and I'm doing, 70, and somebody pulls out and signals as they're pulling out in front of me, and I have to slam my brakes on.
Your left signal there to pull in from lane 2 to lane 1 was an ambiguous signal.
Really?
It was, I'm afraid.
In what way?
You could have been leaving the motorway. You were only 200 yards from the slip road.
So here we are back in the studio after my first drive with Tony, and I must say it was like taking my test all over again, but about 10 times worse, because of course I've got into bad habits over the year. So how did I do, Tony?
Well, put it this way, at no time was I looking for the ejector seat.
Oh, that's good. That makes me feel okay.
But I mean, there are a number of areas in which to improve. I think the key one is you are trying to go faster than your level of observation ability permits you to do so.
Right.
You're going faster than is safe.
I'm a speed freak.
Yeah, if you wish to call yourself that. But don't worry, we can tame that.
Okay.
We can tame that. And the reason why you're going too quickly is that you're not seeing all the situations that you have to potentially plan for that will actually naturally bring your speed down, because as you realise the number of and variety of hazards there are, you will say, crikey, I've got to slow down in order to cope with them.
Are you saying here that I'm exceeding speed limits? Is that what I'm doing, or is it just generally...
were certainly...
I'm sticking to speed limits, but I could be going slower within them.
You were certainly exceeding speed limits on a number of occasions, but equally, where you were sticking to speed limits, the legal speed limits, then there are times when you should have been going a little slower.
So, Tony, am I doing anything right? Is there anything positive that's come out of this lesson today?
Yes. There are a number of things that came out. One is you took great care to make sure that the car was correctly set up for you, bearing in mind it was a strange car to you. So that was very important. All too many drivers just get in a strange car and drive off. That was very important. You actually controlled the car well. It can be vastly improved, but you did actually control the car well. You're a confident driver. What we need to do is to work on your actual technique and instill a degree of discipline, shall we say, into your driving.
That sounds like my old school reports, to be honest.
Yeah, mine were a bit like that as well.
Well, it certainly got my appetite whetted, and it's brought home to me a lot of things that I didn't realise, and things that you just do automatically without thinking about. Yeah. I'm sure there'll be people watching that think, well, hey, maybe wouldn't mind having a go at that. Mm-hmm. What do they do? Well,
there are groups of people all over the country. There's about nearly 200 groups of people of the Institute of Advanced Motorists around the country. The easiest thing to contact their local, find out where their local group is, to ring the Institute, and the number's 0181 994 4403. Contact them and they will send them details of where their local people are, and they will be only too willing to help them out. And because the Institute, and indeed many and the groups, are charitable organisations, they are there because they want to do it. It's not a commercial service. They were there because they want to improve people's driving and want to increase road safety.
Well, I have definitely learnt something tonight, and I hope you have too. Are you still looking for that perfect company car, something to really reflect your position in the world? Well, after the break, we get behind the wheel of Audi's latest A6, which might be literally right up your street. Hi, welcome back. What makes an executive car stand out from the pack? Surely not just the price tag. Ian Royale visited a Tudor Castle to drive a car firmly in the late 1990s.
Now, I'm never usually one to complain, but after a dull diet of repmobiles, driving these things around all day, you really want to get something with a little bit more spice, something radical in its design. And that's why we've come to seek out Fresher Pastures, a gourmet menu of one of the world's most beautiful cars. Well, this is Hever Castle near Edenbridge in Kent, where I've come to have my motoring appetite whetted. And on the gourmet menu is the brand new Audi A6. Hever Castle is a mock Tudor castle with a lovely village where we're staying tonight. The Audi is the epitome of modern engineering. Audi's designers really have come up with an absolutely stunning car. The curved sweeping lines are just fantastic, very reminiscent of the Audi TT prototype that we saw a couple of years back. The interior is very well appointed too, high spec. Let's take a look at it. Now the inside of the Audi A6 is very impressive. It doesn't have the ambience of, say, a Jaguar, but it reeks of quality. The only maybe downside about the A6 getting into this car is it may be a little dull, perhaps needs lightening up, but you could do that if you have the optional leather upholstery. You can select the choice of hides and colours. You can even select from 3 different wood trims, and the standard specification on the Audi A6 is very impressive. You get climate control, automatic climate control. You will be able to sit back in luxury with air conditioning whirring away. The stereo system is a quality system which you don't get on some other German cars, so perhaps BMW and Mercedes are going to follow suit on that very soon. And there are nice little touches like a cup holder in the front for the driver and the centre armrest. Audi engineers worked with mathematical simulation in order to achieve the rigidity, weight and crash properties of the body of the new Audi A6. And they've also used aluminium for the engine hood, door frames and parts of the running gear. Despite being lighter overall, the new body is 50% more rigid than the previous version, and the driver benefits from better ride comfort. However, if you're looking for a thrilling drive, well, you really won't get it unless you ask for the sport suspension option, which at around £300 is probably well worth paying for. Now with me now is Len Hunt, who's director of Audi UK. Len, you've introduced this gorgeous new A6. What made you bring it in at this stage of the cycle up against the new BMWs, the new Mercedes E-Class?
Well, I think since 1994, when we saw the first A6, which was the first car to carry the new A-Series nomenclature, we've been progressively launching cars. We saw the A8 and the A4, then the A3 last year, and now we've been building up for this executive sector attack, really, to take on that car, the BMW 5 Series principally, and the Mercedes E-Class. So it really is an important car for Audi. I think one of the comments that we saw around the introduction of the 5 Series BMW and the E-Class Mercedes was very much the evolutionary styling that the cars took. And with the Audi A6, we see more of an innovative approach, more a step change in the styling, certainly on the exterior and particularly on the interior. And we're seeing sort of design features from the concept car we launched in Frankfurt, which is the TT, the Audi TT. And so we're seeing a design stretch. And I think for people looking to be more sort of innovative, more modern, you can see a sort of far-reaching stretch design.
The new Audi A6 was first unveiled at the Geneva Motor Show in March to fanfares and Wagnerian fantasy characters. Its radical styling, reminiscent of the Audi TT, heralds the next generation for Audi. Well, initial driving impressions of the new Audi A6 are very good. We're driving the 2.4, which is the V6, 165 brake horsepower, and this is equipped on this model with the automatic transmission, which includes the Tiptronic mode, which allows you to shift up and down the gears with the manual selector. That's very impressive. One thing that's annoying so far is that the central control system that is in the middle of the dashboard, which allows you to see which gear you're in, is very difficult to see on a bright sunny day like this. I've got my sunglasses on, it's sunny outside, it's very difficult to see which gear I'm in on the control system because you can't seem to adjust the brightness of the control system, so that's annoying. Also, when you're in automatic mode normally, it does tend to hunt up and down the gears a little bit, and there's a bit of jerkiness there as you try and put your foot down and it kicks up a gear. But cruising at 70 miles an hour on a motorway dual carriageway, it's quiet, it's refined. Impressions so far are good. The newly developed electronic climate control now responds to the position of the sun. The system has separate temperature controls for the driver and passenger, and new sensors not only measure the temperature at selected points, but also take into account the surrounding area. A solar sensor now measures the intensity and angle of the sun's rays. Attention to detail, or what? Now, when manufacturers design a new executive car, the driver inevitably always comes first. The rear passengers sometimes get a rough deal. The cabins can be very cramped in the back. But the new Audi A6 has a remarkably spacious cabin. It has class-leading knee and leg room in the rear. It has a light, airy cabin. Now, I'm 6 foot and there's plenty of space for me in the back. The seats are perhaps a little firm, but I think you'd mould your body into it quite well. Nice little touches in the rear, these 2 cup holders. There's a centre armrest. There's a third 3-way seat belt as well. Little reading lamps, and this nice little touch as well, an executive Audi designed coat hanger. There's a good choice of engines on the new A6. There's the familiar 1.8 litre turbo engine, which is a 5-valve model. There's also the all-new 2.4 litre V6 made specifically for the A6, and this, the 2.8 litre V6, available in either a 2-wheel drive or the very familiar Quattro 4-wheel drive. And coming soon we'll see the familiar 1.9 turbo diesel engine. In overall length, the new A6 is similar to the old model, but its basic styling has enabled the proportions to change. Body overhang has been reduced by 57mm at the front and 17mm at the rear, and the wheelbase has been increased by 73mm. The body's aerodynamic shape has put the high point of the curve at a more central point than before, allowing for more interior room. Knee room for the rear seat passengers has been increased by 62mm. Headroom is greater by 28mm at the front and 20mm at the rear. Now, you don't do a test drive with a tape measure, of course, but the overall feel is one of space and airiness, and it almost makes the BMW 5 Series seem cramped in comparison. I'm in the top-of-the-range Audi A6. This is the 2.8 Quattro, and with me, David Ingram, Product Marketing Manager. David, you were closely involved in the way that the whole A6 was put together. Tell us more about your role in that.
Well, it started off as a role for assisting the engineers to develop the right things for right-hand drive vehicles to ensure that, for example, the windscreen wipers went the right way. It might sound funny, but it wasn't always the case many years ago. And to ensure the appropriate positioning for the pedal layout, the footrest for the clutch foot, and the positioning of the seat, steering wheel and pedal relationship. But I think also beyond that, the UK market is very emotionally based, and the engineers value the input from what they see as a very important market, in fact their most important export market.
Now, on some of the cars you can have the automatic gearbox with the Tiptronic. What about on some cars, the Porsche 911s have the shift up and down on the steering wheel? Is that going to come on the new A6?
Yes, very much so. We hope to be able to offer that within about 12 months, also with radio controls on the steering wheel, again for more and more convenience, but we want to make sure that the positioning of the buttons is exactly right so that they don't get in the way of normal day-to-day driving. The outgoing A6 was developed quite some time ago, and a lot of developments have taken place since then. I think the most noticeable thing about the car, as you say, apart from the design, is how much more refined the car is. The engines are much smoother. A lot of engine technology with 5 valves per cylinder makes the car more efficient, makes the engine more efficient, but also quieter and smoother. The car itself is much quieter in terms of road noise, wind noise, and the contrast between the driving experience of this car and its predecessor is really quite noticeable.
Now, there are lots of important safety features on the new Audi A6, which of course you'd expect on an executive car costing between £20,000 and £30,000. You get airbags for both the driver and passenger, you get 5th generation ABS, and you get ASR, which is an electronic traction control. Now, unfortunately, it's a beautiful dry sunny day today, we can't try it out, but presumably on wet roads it means the car is very stable, there's no wheel spin. Even Audi have provided us with the nice weather today.
A whole host of features which really are designed to give a very safe feel to the driver's sort of driving. I mean, what we don't want to do is confuse him with all sorts of things he has to do, so we tend to just put them there. And really we don't want him worrying about electronic diff lock or anti-slip control or ABS, but just want him to be confident that in the back of his mind, should he get into a situation where they're needed, they just happen automatically.
I mean, most people, when they try and look through the handbook and try and work out what that is and what that is and what it does, I mean, are probably going to be completely confused.
Absolutely. I think we just need to make sure that they know it's there and it's working in their interests and enjoying, improving their enjoyment of the driving.
So all in all, this brand new Audi A6 is a very classy executive car. You'd be happy to pull up in the company car park in this. The prices are very competitive. This car is £1,000 cheaper than the rival BMW. Specification is very high as well. So if you want a car that's well built, reliable, solid, and it's made in Germany, try out the BMW, try out the Mercedes, but don't forget the new Audi A6.
A gorgeous looking car, but there are of course many others in this highly competitive market. Are you swayed? Well, get behind the wheel and test drive it for yourself. Well, whatever you drive, they say that after some years on the road, a comprehensive service is not really enough to get the most of the engine. After the break, John Wright will be discovering what may be the automotive equivalent of an enema, a dose of vitamin tablets and a week at a health farm. Intrigued? Join us soon to find out. Hi and welcome back to Four Wheels Good. Has your engine been playing up recently? No, I don't mean jumping up behind you or playing truant on service days, just not quite what it was. Well, maybe it needs a purge. John Wright, our resident automotive engineer, discovers more.
Welcome back to Inside Motors. It's an absolutely superb day here today. Sun shining, birds singing, brilliant. Unfortunately, we're going to talk modern cars, modern problems. Dirty valves. The problem with modern cars is that the tolerances in the engines are lovely and tight, nice, smooth running engines. However, they suffer from a little problem of sticky valves. Now, I've got with me John, who's a representative of the Wins Oil Company, and he's got an answer to this. But first of all, we'll talk about the problem and we'll show you what happens. In front of us, we've got a Ford Fiesta head. And we're just going to take one of the valves out and have a look at it. There you are, John. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's very characteristic of modern cars these days, of the actual carbonisation of up the stem of the valve. It's caused by very fine tolerances, because nowadays you can find, very fine tolerances are in sort of most engines, and unfortunately the fuel is of not such good quality and it's not so combustible, so unfortunately it produces excess carbon.
We've got a nice car to do the test on. We've got an 1800 Escort, 16 valve Z-Tech, supercar. The owner actually is reporting the fact that it's performing like a 1600 8 valve. Right, can you just quickly show us around the machine? I take it this is the business end.
Yeah, well, this is the serious end of the business. This is the pressure feed, which actually put a quick connection pipe actually goes into the rail on the pressure side. Another one goes in there to actually on the return feed, so the vehicle actually runs totally on the machine.
Very nice.
This is the pressure gauge, because that is the important thing. We must get the pressure correct. It's measured in PSI and bar, so you've got both cracks of the whip there.
Right.
This is the pressure setting. When it's full out, that's in like the diesel setting, because the diesel will actually run off its own pump. This is the adjuster. As you wind it in, it increases the pressure. So you can get it right to start the vehicle, because if the pressure's not right, the vehicle won't start.
And what's this little box of tricks?
Well, this is the timer on here, and that is the solar cell which this operates. It's fully remote control. That's the start button, that's the stop button. The purge button there is actual fact when you want to evacuate the machine from doing a diesel to a petrol or vice versa, because you don't actually drain the tank every time. So what happens to the buzzer when the product's finished in the machine, it bleeps at you and you actually press the purge button and it evacuates the machine completely.
Yeah.
These two buttons here actually control the timer, so it's the up and down buttons. As you can see, two crocodile clips for fitting to a 12-volt supply. In theory, you can actually do this process actually in the middle of a ploughed field if that's what sort of takes your fancy. This is the actual tank where you put the purge liquid.
Okay, there we are. Shall we get the machine connected up and we'll get it going?
Yeah, fine.
Oh, hang on. Shall we just do a quick emissions test before, and then we can see what your machine does?
Good idea.
We've got George here with us, senior engineer from Sykes Pickavant, who's kindly come along to run the exhaust gas analyzer for us. Take it you set up for all different sorts of cars and kits and...
Well, this kit takes a lot of beating. I've never really been caught out at all since we've been using the machine.
This is the inlet, the petrol inlet, I take it?
Yeah, that's where the main pressure feed actually goes into the engine. Well, the next thing we've got to do, the important bit, is we've actually got to put the purge liquid actually into the tank.
Let's set the top off that.
There we go. See how steady the hand is.
What exactly is this stuff going to do now?
What it's going to do is going to clean the whole of the combustion chamber. It's going to clean the back end of the valves, which is the important bit, and the injectors. So in actual fact, you tune the car up after rather than tune it down.
Okay, pop the top back on.
Yeah. Well, what we'll do, we'll give it half an hour. So, like so, and we activate it like so.
That sounded healthy. I'm just checking there are no leaks there. No, we're fine.
Right, now what we need to do is to start the car.
Right, half an hour later, here we are. I tell you what, it sounds a lot better, John.
It's a lot smoother, isn't it? And it seems to have gained, the revs seem to have got a bit better, a bit higher.
Yeah, you weren't telling lies when you said it'd get better after.
No, you can't afford to tell lies in this business. You always get caught out.
Right, okay, if somebody could switch it off, what we'll do is we'll take all the pipes away and we'll give it a quick road test.
Great, fine.
Oh, Tim, you've just run this round after the purge. What do you think of it now?
Yeah, it's running much better, John, thanks.
We can't guarantee that your car's going to run like a Lexus, but certainly purging's the name of the game. It's curing the sticky valve problem, and remember, you saw it first on Inside Motors.
Wow, what a palaver. The machine that seems to have a real effect on tired out engines. I wonder if it has the same effect on humans. Well, we're going now, but thanks for watching this week. Next week is our special edition from the most important European motor show, Frankfurt 97. So please join us then.